My name is Larissa. We're going to practice together for about 15 minutes. And as we're getting situated, getting ready to practice, as always, just taking a few moments to settle into your body. And this month, we'll be working with some somatic meditations. So somatic means of the body. And we always start here. And there's so many forms of meditation, so many different styles. But this form of beginning with your body, the purpose of that is multifold. But one of the main reasons is that our body is always present. You've probably heard me say that a million times. But our body is here in the moment. That's our mind that does the wandering. And as we get to know our body, we start to notice our body speaks a slightly different language than our mind. Sometimes our body is quieter, it's a bit slower. And so receiving the messages from our body requires sometimes a bit of slowing down and a bit of softening of the mind. And so we're going to lean into that right now, just taking a bit of time to slow down, check in with your body. And as we use our body as a focal point, you can use any focal point. It can be your breath, it can be your hands, it can be the sensation of temperature that's ever changing. But often we go to the breath because it's shifting and moving. It reminds us that life is impermanent, that we can't really control anything. And we can watch our breath in that. We can really watch the comings and goings of our breath. And that helps us also watch the comings and goings of our mind rather than getting caught up in every single thought that arrives. And so just a couple of notes on why we often use our body as a focal point. And then eventually we'll start working with our mind. We might start using a particular body part or a particular focal point. But beginning just with your own body, your own soma, I'll invite you to either close your eyes or set your gaze downward. And even that is a choice. We might choose to leave our eyes open for a few more moments. We might choose to close our eyes. And as we're closing our eyes, even noticing the closing of your eyelids, how do your eyes end up situating themselves in a softened position, in a relaxed position? So even just noticing that subtlety, what are my eyes doing as I start to close them or I turn my gaze downward? This deep curiosity about what your body is doing. Settling in here for a few moments. Just curious about the workings of your body, feeling perhaps your eyeballs moving behind your eyelids, feeling your breath moving, and eventually feeling the still spaces between breaths. And then as you notice these subtle layers of sensory awareness, there's very often lots of layers of thinking mind as well. We're not trying to push away the thinking mind, just giving our mind permission to rest. This is an active form of rest for our mind. It sometimes requires some gentle effort. Last month, we went through the Eightfold Noble Path, and wise effort is one of the practices. And wise effort means meeting the moment with the proper amount of effort, which is different moment to moment. This gentle effort to invite your attention back to your breath. I often think about my mind like an untrained puppy, just kind of running around, getting distracted, very excitable. But then the invitation comes with a gentleness rather than a forcefulness. Just inviting my attention back. What does my breath feel like? What am I noticing in my body? Is there some contrast? Like temperature of my hands may be slightly different than the temperature at my core. Just being so curious that your body can share all of its wisdom with you beyond this layer of words that our mind is used to. Just noticing layers of sensation, a warmth, a coolness, a movement, a stillness, a deep breath, a softening. Just curious, just observing all of this in these silent, quiet moments. Perhaps the moments are not so quiet. You're just experiencing what you're experiencing in this moment. Doing your best to allow. Just allowing the sounds, allowing the breath, and allowing these moments of stillness as they come. Let's take a moment to just shift your awareness to your feet. Perhaps even taking a moment to appreciate your ability to do so. Sometimes it feels almost impossible to shift my attention away from a really sticky thought. But notice how you can shift. It's like, oh yeah, there's my feet. And suddenly there's this sensation of awareness. And it's subtle. But go ahead and move your toes. And suddenly that sensation becomes less subtle, it becomes more obvious. And just this movement of your toes, it takes us away from the movement of the mind just for a split second. And that movement of your toes is happening exactly in the present. So it's never about forcing your attention to stay. It's just this invitation. Oh, look, my toes are wiggling. If you've ever seen a baby notice their feet for the first time, there's delight and awe and wonder. What are these toes attached to my body? And we're practicing sometimes just bringing this awareness. And sometimes these layers of delight can open up. And we're not trying to force that. We're not trying to force yourself to be delighted by the wiggling of your toes. It's just this invitation of curiosity and then seeing what comes up. Let's take a few moments here to spread your toes, maybe noticing resistance against a sock or a shoe, or maybe one foot's tucked under a leg. Just notice the difference in your feet, the sensation of them right now. Once you spread your toes, you might also squeeze them up, squishing your feet, curling them, and then releasing. Just trying that a couple of times and just noticing what are these different layers of sensation as I simply make these small movements in my feet. It's a deep curiosity about this sensation in your feet. You might allow your feet to soften, or perhaps you've already done so. Take a moment here as well. See what it's like to appreciate everything that your feet do for you every day. They take you places, they move for you, they sit still for you. It's such a subtle and simple thing, and it might feel a little bit foreign or unfamiliar to actively be thanking your feet. Just a curiosity, what is it like to spend a moment to just appreciate everything my feet do for me in a day? I'm going to share here just a little quote. This is from the author Valerie Kaur. And she says, these seemingly ordinary moments of wonder in your life, when you are arrested by the sunset or swell of music or your child's face, and the line between you and everything blurs, these are not throwaway moments. These are actually portals into the sacred nature of things. It's just this invitation to pay attention to these seemingly ordinary moments, and perhaps they can turn into awe and wonder. And the invitation to bring that into something as obvious as your feet. And then from your feet, just this moment of appreciation, bringing your attention to your hands. Bring your hands into any of your closing habits or practices, palms together, hands over heart, perhaps even just placing your hands on your feet. Our hands offer us so much support and comfort. And we'll end with a few loving kindness phrases, as we often do, just repeating back your own well wishing to yourself. And repeat the phrases if they make sense for you. May I take time to appreciate my feet today. May I remember the innate goodness of my breath. And whenever possible, may I choose to move with ease and peace. Take your time whenever you feel complete. Open your eyes, find a little movement. As always, take a moment to thank yourself just for setting aside time. Thank you, Sangha community, for being here.